This is us. So yeah, really warm welcome from me. So my name's Gara Bhavati. It's really nice to see you all here this evening. I really enjoyed having to ask people to move into the shrine room and fill up from this side, because we haven't had to do that for ages, and it's when we're busier that we need to do that, so that was good. So yeah, it's really nice to see you, and as Dan Yutal was saying, we're on our sort of 5th day or our 3rd evening of the urban retreat. And you might just be joining us just for the first time this evening. So the night will sort of stand alone, but it's also part of, like a journey or a progression that we've been going on since Saturday. And what we've been doing in the evenings in the meditation practices is we're moving on a sort of a progression really from samadhi to pranya. So Monday and Tuesday, if you were joining us, we were cultivating energized calm, sort of calming and stabilizing our minds in the meditation practice. And tonight we're going to turn the minds more towards pranya, insight, wisdom. So we're going to be exploring that in the meditation practice, and we're going to be doing that over the next sort of 3 days. So tomorrow and the next day we're going to be exploring different ways in really to looking at reality, coming a bit closer to our experience. So we're going to be talking about that tonight. And then in the second half, Sthiramanas is going to be talking about this beautiful figure on the shrine, which is a wisdom figure. So we're going to be sort of exploring this quality of wisdom in meditation, in our direct experience. And then in the second half, Sthiramanas is going to be talking about that embodied, the enlightened sort of qualities of that. Oh, and I forgot to say hello if you're joining us online. So hello, welcome. If you're joining us on YouTube, really warm welcome as well. Okay. So I'll just say a little bit about meditation, then we'll do a short metta bhavana, and then I'll say something else, and then we'll do another meditation practice. So we teach the mindfulness of breathing and the metta bhavana here at the London Buddhist Centre. We're teaching those practices. The mindfulness of breathing, as you know, we're cultivating focus, we're cultivating integration, we're sort of gathering our energies which have been scattered. So sort of gathering the mind. And the practice will help the mind to become steady, help the mind to become more stable. And it will help your sort of whole being actually to sort of calm down. And then we also teach the metta bhavana, which is cultivating positive emotion. So helping the mind to become more sort of robust and warm and appreciative. So these practices are helping the mind to stabilize, are helping the mind to become more sort of flexible and open. And you will have all experienced the sort of pleasure and the satisfaction and the richness of that. But that's not the sort of end point of meditation. Buddhist meditation isn't about just relaxing and about sort of blissing out or just having a good meditation. What we're trying to do, the reason that we're cultivating that stability of the mind, is that we're then, with this stable, positive mind, we're then turning the mind to look at the nature of our experience, to see what our lives are really about. And when we start to do that, we start to see the nature of our experience, and we start to see through something. And once we start to see through that, then we can start to break free of obstacles, patterns, habits that hold us back. And there's no limit to that, actually. There's no limit to the sort of creativity and the change that can happen when we start to see through into the nature of our experience. And reality is trying to reveal itself to us all the time in lots and lots of different ways. And quite often we're resisting it and pushing against it. So tonight in the meditation practice, we're going to turn towards a particular aspect of reality. And there's a specific way that we can do that, which we're going to explore. But in order to do that, we want the mind to become steady and stable, and we want the mind to be warm and loving in order to do that. So we're going to start off by doing a short metta bhavana to sort of cultivate that in the mind, in the heart, and then we're going to move into this insight meditation practice, which we'll do in the second part of this half. So we're going to do a short metta bhavana, just 3 stages. The first stage, the second stage, and the 5th stage. So ourselves, the good friend, and all beings. And And then I'll say a little bit more about the meditation practice once we've done that. So set yourselves up in meditation posture. Make sure you've got everything you need to be really comfortable. And some of you were here at lunchtime, so you're going to get to do this for a second time. So we've done this at lunchtime as well. And if you're at home, just make sure you're comfortable as well. So making sure you're sitting upright if you're on a sofa. So just start by allowing the weight of the body just to release down through your legs, down through your sit bones. See if you can let the muscles of the thighs relax. And the spine can just rise up in its natural curves. You don't need to pull your body upright, just let the spine rise up. And allow your shoulders to release down your back. As you breathe in, just letting your chest be soft and open. Feel the chest broadening on the inhale, shoulders releasing on the exhale. Your face can also soften, so just dropping any expression on the face. Release your jaw. Soften the throat. And just bring your attention down to the heart. And see if you can just start to feel around the heart with the breath. So the breath just touching into the heart center. And let yourself just feel the fullness of that. Maybe there's a resistance or a numbness, a tenderness, or a vibrancy. And let the practice unfold from the heart center. The Metta Bhavana, the first stage metta for ourselves. good friend. All beings. just start to let go of your efforts and just sit for a few moments. Okay, so I'm just going to say a little bit and then we'll meditate again. So just talk for about 5 minutes. It's nice to sit out of your meditation posture just to sort of give your body a bit of a break from the sitting position. So do you sit out of your meditation posture if you're on the ground? Yeah, so like I was saying at the start, we're going to move towards these wisdom reflections, and we're doing this in meditation practice, but you can look at your whole experience through these lenses. And the Buddha taught that that reality has these two modes of operation. There's a cyclical mode and there's a spiral mode. And you will have experienced these in your life where you might sit to meditate, or you might get really absorbed in something and you experience a sort of a happiness or a concentration or a bliss even. And it feels like it's going to go on forever, and then something happens and you sort of go back to sort of more reactive, contracted state. Has everyone had that experience? Yeah? So we sort of swing, we can like swing between these two poles, or sometimes it can feel like we're going round and round. So when we do samadhi practices, when we're calming the mind, stabilizing the mind, it's not like everlasting, yeah? So we'll go back to when those conditions change, when the conditions where samadhi arises, where energized calm arises, we'll go back to being distracted, or back to our sort of habits which keep us limited and sort of contracted. With insight practice, when we start to look more at the nature of our experiences, when we can start to see clearly into the nature of experience, it can start to bring a more lasting change in a positive direction. We can sort of step onto a spiral where we start to spiral up through much more positive states, and creativity and positive emotion will just start to unfold. And once you reach a certain stage on that spiral, there's no return, so there's no going back. There's no going back to sort of limited, contracted states. And once you get even higher up the spiral, you become enlightened. Yeah, it's not a joke. It's so this is when the Buddha became enlightened. This is how he describes what he saw, that our conditioned experience, the sort of cyclical, the going round and round, has 3 marks. And the way that we can escape from that sort of circle of going round and round is to go deep, look deeply into the nature of our experience and look at those marks, feel them, and at first we'll have resistance to them often, but they're actually gateways, they're doorways to liberation, they're doorways to set us free from a feeling of feeling separate from the world, of feeling isolated, of feeling limited, of feeling contracted. And we'll all have a felt sense of our potential. We'll all have a sense that we can grow, and you will have experienced that in your life, where you feel there's boundless energy, there's creativity, there's connection, there's a love, and it just flows. So we'll all have had that experience. So this way of looking at our experience is a way to break through into that, yeah? So we're going to be exploring these marks over the next 3 evenings. So the first mark is the mark of impermanence. So the sort of the mark of change. So arising and passing away, arising and passing away. Often we're resistant to looking at that, or I can be resistant to looking at that. We want to find sort of an everlasting security where everything is stable. And we can spend a lot of time trying to firm things up so that we feel safe and we feel secure and everything's nailed down, yeah? What we're trying to do is sort of turn that upside down in a way and really embrace the fact of change and see what it can teach us about our experience, and look and see how change is just, we are change. It's not that some change is happening to me. It's like, I am change. My mind, what I think, what I feel, what I do, my physical experience, everything is in a process of change. So that can teach us something about the nature of reality, but in a sort of more down-to-earth way. If I'm constantly changing, then I can start to shape that change in a creative direction. So it's really exciting. It's like, yeah, you can change, you are change, and with effort and applied effort, you can start to shape that change as well. There's lots of implications of this. We could talk like forever about them, but that's all I'm going to say. And then we need to look at the change with a mind of love and a warmth and appreciation, which is why I've done the metta bhavana. So when we're looking at change, we want to look at it with the eyes of beauty. We want to see the beauty of change, the possibility of change. Change can be really tender as well. Change can, it sort of means death actually, doesn't it? In all its sort of different ways, poetically and sort of in a real way. But it also means possibility and transformation. So we want to look at it with the eyes of beauty, and autumn is like the perfect season. And around here, if you live around here, it's perfect because the park's so gorgeous. The changingness of the leaves it's the perfect time to start to embrace it. We can do it in our minds and in our hearts in meditation practice as well. So what we're going to do for this next little meditation is we're going to sit, and I'm just going to guide us through a way of looking at our direct experience and just turning towards the changingness of our experience. So seeing if we can just experience our experience as a process of change, like a constant flux of change, and just see what happens. And you might feel resistance, or you might feel instant liberation. So just see what unfolds in that relationship to change, and do it with the sort of the warmth of the metta bhavana practice. Okay, so set yourselves up in meditation again, and I'm just going to guide us through just looking at this sort of the changing nature of our experience. So we're coming right up close to our direct experience, and we start off in the body. So freedom and transcendence, liberation, isn't going to be found outside of our direct experience. So just feeling that contact with the ground. And just start by just tuning into the sounds inside the room, outside the room. And just allow the sounds to come to you, and just notice how they arise, they unfold. Maybe they pass away, or maybe they just ebb and flow in changing patterns. then bring your attention down into your hands. Just let your hands soften a little. And with this warm appreciation of your hands, just feel the changing patterns of sensation through the fingertips, thumbs. See if you can get a bit closer to those changing sensations. Now bringing your attention to your breath. And seeing if you can stay close to the breath, where inhale becomes exhale. Where the breath ends and the body begins. And staying in touch with the breath, just start to notice the changing nature of your mind. So you might have moments of awareness, and you might get distracted. Different thoughts or emotions will co-arise, unfold, dissolve or play out. Just notice the changiness of your mind. And stay in touch with the breath. just for the next 3 minutes or so, just seeing if you can just be with the changing nature of the whole of your experience. And now just start to let go of your efforts and just sit for a few moments. we're going to have a little tea break now. And then in the second half, Sthiramanas is going to be introducing us to this figure, Manjushri, this wisdom figure. So we're going to be, just exploring in a way what we've been exploring just now through this figure. So you can, if you're in the room, you can go next door and have a cup of tea and a biscuit. And if you're online, you can stay with us. Me and Dani Utara are going to come and have a chat with you and have a cup of tea with you. So so if you're in the room, you can make your way out into the lounge, and if you're online, you could also get a cup of tea, and Dani Utara and I are going to stay and have a chat. They're called the Lakshana reflections. Oh, it's please may I have peppermint? Yeah, thank you. It's L-A-K. There's two different spellings, but this is one spelling. L-A-K-S-H-A-N-A. Yeah, and Bhante talks about the Lakshanas a lot, and so does Subduing. You can use them like outside of meditation as well, but it's really important to be doing the metta bhavana practice as well alongside them. So they're not like instead of the metta bhavana Manjusri, it's like another way of sort of approaching your experience or meditation, because it's really important to have like that the really loving quality when you're looking at them, because they're quite strong practices. Yeah, you will have come across them before. Yeah. Sorry? If you want to, me and Dani Utara will be talking to people on YouTube, so it might be nicer to be on the other.
Actually, I might actually get my little thing.
Oh, yeah.
My little gilet.
Oh, hi Caroline. Nice to see you, inverted commas. And Edward from Scotland, Anne-Marie. Manisha. Oh, it's Robert. Hi, Robert. Don't know if you're all still there, but we're saying hello to whoever said hi at the start. So we've got this little iPad here, and we can see your names if you said hello at the start. So we don't know if you're still there. If you're still there, actually, you could say hello again, and then we can say hello to you again. But if you've got any questions, or you just want to have a chat to us, you could ask us any questions.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be really nice to hear how your meditation was.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Yeah. I had a really nice meditation.
Oh,
Thank
did
you
you
very much. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Do you want to? You can kick us off.
Well, I was just thinking about this. Well, not thinking. Obviously, I was experiencing my
Okay,
experience. But like particularly experiencing sound and the changing nature of sound, and just noticing that it's like a field. It's like a field of sound. And I could sort of notice sounds that were, with my eyes closed, obviously, notice sounds that were closer and further away. The sort of thing that I wouldn't notice if you hadn't told us to notice. Yeah, so I just really enjoyed that. Like subtlety and texture in an experience.
Oh, that sounds really nice. So it sounds like it helped you to get a bit more concentrated as well then, because you got quite absorbed in it.
Yeah, I did actually.
Yeah.
Well, for a momentary absorption.
Well, that's something, isn't it? It's better than momentary distraction.
Well, but I was also thinking that.
Thank you, Xander.
Yeah, thank you. Our tea orders have arrived.
I don't know if you have someone that brings you tea at home, but we have Xander at the Buddhist Centre, which is lovely.
And he does have brought us biscuits.
Oh my gosh, biscuits.
Chocolate
digestives. The best kind.
He knows the way to our hearts. Well, mine at least. Yeah, I'm not so keen on bourbons actually.
No, neither am I. Chocolate
digestives.
the best. Yeah. Oh, we've got some people saying hello. That's nice. Hello from Utah. Wow. We don't know your name, though. Tell us your name from Utah. That's great.
Wow.
That's amazing. And Paul. Hi, Paul in Crouch End. And Caroline's back with a cup of tea. Hi, Caroline.
Oh yeah, Caroline too experienced the changing noises.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to say any more about your experience, Caroline, of the changing noises? Because Dan Utah was, I don't know if you caught it, she was talking about her experience of it.
I think I was mainly, I was also thinking that like just drawing out changing nature into like our relationship with the world. I don't know if like, I don't know if what we're meant to be doing is like drawing any conclusions from changing noises.
Yeah. Did you have any?
No, I was wondering about you because like you were leading the meditation.
Did I have any conclusions? Well, I think what I quite like about the changing noises is that it's like, it feels to me like sound arises out of emptiness and then dissolves into emptiness. When I listen to the sounds, it's like they arise, they unfold, and they pass away. And when I start to listen, rather than labeling the sounds, when I just start to listen, when I start to just notice the nature of them, I don't get so caught up in like what the sound is. I start to notice more the nature of it. And in a way, I think that's what these teachings are pointing to. It's like, rather than getting so caught up in the content of our lives, we could notice the nature of our lives. And like Daniel was saying, when we notice the nature of it, it's amazing, because it's like we don't, well, you were saying like it's like a field of sound. It becomes rich and it becomes something to know, and it becomes really interesting actually, and sort of more mysterious and more beautiful than if I'm like, oh, there's a car, and oh, where there's a motorbike. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Your question, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very, very good. Very interesting reflection.
So Caroline, you were saying, I thought I was hearing a helicopter above my head, and it turned out to be my cat. Wow, you sounds like you were very unattached to the object of sound. Wow. And then we've got Joanna, who's in South London, and we've got, it's Ron. So it's Ron in Utah. Well, really special. Everyone's really welcome, but it's really nice to have Ron in Utah. What time is it in Utah?
And what's the weather like?
We're British, so we really want to know about the weather.
Actually, it's not too bad weather-wise in London at the moment, but often it's not very nice. I imagine Utah to be sunny somehow, like dry.
Yeah.
British weather's really wet.
Yeah, damp.
That's why we need biscuits.
That's why we need biscuits and peppermint tea. And David saying hi from Bognor Regis. And then we've got someone else joining from Elton, but I'm not sure we know your first name. V. Fagan, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is great that we make these meditations available online.
Yeah, it's
very,
really,
very
really nice to have people from, especially from different countries. It's really amazing.
Yeah. And it's special this week because we're also going to be running these sessions on Thursday and Friday, which we don't normally do.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so, tune in tomorrow and Friday as well.
Yeah. And we're going to also be exploring in the first half of the evenings, we'll be exploring the next two marks of existence. So tonight we looked at impermanence and sort of the changiness of our experience. And tomorrow we're going to look at unsatisfactoriness and suffering, which is so, I just find it really exciting actually, because the thought of looking at suffering, like actually sitting and looking for suffering in my experience, seems like
I don't want to do that.
I think I can do better thing of my Thursday evening, thanks. Like go to the cinema and have a nice time. But actually, it's amazing the sort of the liberation that can come from just acknowledging that actually suffering is a part of the human condition, and we don't have to do everything we can and strategize to avoid it. We can actually look into the heart of it, and through it can be a gateway into something beyond wanting and not wanting. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just really caught up with cinema.
Oh yeah, what were you thinking?
Well, it's just, I went to watch the Bond film and it was very unsatisfactory.
unsatisfactory.
Yeah.
The experience. Yeah, actually, I watched the film Dune. I don't know if anyone's seen Dune, but I watched Dune.
Is it good?
It was like medium dukkha.
Medium unsatisfactoriness.
Medium unsatisfactoriness.
That's the thing about unsatisfactoriness, though. Like, you know, we think that there are certain things that will, that won't be unsatisfactory or will satisfy us. There are certain we imagine certain things will satisfy us, but they don't.
Yeah.
It's like we go to the wrong thing for satisfactoriness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we are like what we're looking for isn't wrong, is it? We are looking for something which is going to be sort of. Do you think the chocolate biscuit's going to bring you lasting satisfaction?
No, chocolate biscuit will give me lasting satisfaction, but it'll give me a little hit of sugar.
Yeah. So it's good because you need to just know what you're going to get, basically. So
Yeah.
you just have realistic expectations that it will bring you a moment of pleasure, but at some point there'll be pain
At some point.
when the sugar rush runs off.
I have to go to yoga tomorrow.
And you go to yoga tomorrow. Yeah, so Dana Utah's a very impressive woman. She's been getting up at 5:30 every morning this week. She has a very impressive yoga practice.
I'm impressed with myself, actually.
You're impressed with yourself. Do you want to tell us what your latest posture is?
I won't tell you what my latest posture is, but today I was standing on my chin.
As you do.
As you do. With my feet above my head. And then I was bending my knee so that I was touching my head with my feet. And my yoga teacher was helping me. And then he wants to put my feet next to my ears, like that. And
Wow.
he said, "It's really hard to find your ears." He was shouting at me. He's like, "It's really hard to find your ears. They don't stick out enough."
He was trying to find your ears.
Yeah. He was like... Anyway.
Oh my god.
It was fine.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Standing on your chin. With
I-
your
I-
legs
yeah.
by your ears. Feet by your ears.
But I am really glad I don't have sticky out ears.
Yeah.
Even though it makes
It's
it harder
holding
to
you
do
back in your
yoga.
yoga practice.
It is holding me back in my yoga practice, but I still prefer it.
Aww. Sticky out ears are nice as well, though, aren't they?
Yeah. Hey, so Caroline's saying Netflix is unsatisfactory, but being here at the LBC is great.
Aww. Oh yeah, so this is like the Netflix alternative.
Yeah. I don't know. Not that I watch Netflix. I don't actually have a Netflix account, which is probably...
Why you don't watch it?
Yeah, I don't watch it. I think my YouTube obsession is Saturday Night Live and Graham Norton.
You're so contradictory, I can't believe it. Dana Utah is a very intelligent, one of the most clear-thinking, intelligent people I know.
But Graham Norton, he's so funny.
Yeah, he is funny. That's my mum's favourite TV show. I only ever watch it when I'm with her.
I mean, I don't watch the whole thing, but I like watching these little clips.
Oh, you watch clips of it?
Yeah, I do watch clips of it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. So if anyone, I mean, we can talk more about Graham Norton, and but you might have some questions that you wanted to ask us about the meditation practice or about just like Dharma life in general. So if you've got any questions, you can type them now, and we can eat our biscuits while you type.
Also, just it'd be nice to hear how your meditation was, and
Yeah.
if you have any reflections on impermanence. And also later, we're going to be looking at the figure Manjushri or Manjughosha, and it'd be interesting to know whether you've heard of Manjughosha, you haven't heard of Manjughosha, whether you're familiar with Buddhist, Buddha figures, Bodhisattva figures. And your relationship to them, like which Bodhisattva figures do you know?
Yeah, because some of you might not have been introduced to any Bodhisattva figures, but some of you might have connections already, even maybe with Manjushri, Manjughosha.
Do you know much about Manjughosha?
Well, it's quite interesting actually, because there's some Bodhisattva or Buddha figures that you just have a natural affinity to, and there's some that you have a natural aversion to. And Manjushri, unfortunately, is my natural aversion. It's really interesting. I just sort of feel a bit like, oh, I love the mantra though. I really love the mantra. And we're chanting the mantra, each figure which we're describing in the evenings. We're pointing in this direction because the shrine's in this direction. Each figure which we describe in the evenings, we're chanting the mantra in the mornings. And Sthiramanas, who's giving the talk tonight, he chanted the mantra. It's so beautiful this morning. I always really respond to the mantra, but the figure doesn't really speak to me. Yeah.
Do you know why? It's a sword. Manjushri holds a sword above his head, and the sword is a flaming sword, not just any
flaming sword.
Yeah, flaming sword.
Maybe it's the sword. I don't know. Maybe it's the colour. Orange. each figure will have a sort of colour, which is really, really significant and important. And Manjushri's is orange. I don't know if it's the colour or the figure itself. It's funny, isn't it? This is good actually, because what normally happens with things that we have an aversion to, we don't normally explore it. We just avoid it. So we don't. Well, I don't know. It might be the same for others, but things that we have resistance to, it's like, oh no, I don't want to really look too closely into that, which is sometimes why the thing that we avoid is really good to engage with. Tell us something about something we might need to learn. Do you have a connection with Manjushri?
A little bit. I have a small Manjushri on my shrine. I'll tell you what happened. I bought the Buddha figure really cheap. Because it was slightly broken. But I've grown to really, really love it. And a few years ago, we have a chairperson at the London Buddhist Centre, and the chairperson at that time was stepping down, and I was tasked with buying him a sword, not a flaming sword, but a sword, because he was a Manjushri practitioner. So I had to go and source the sword, buy it, and then get it engraved with the mantra. Wow. And I asked a friend to help me do a bit of that, which was to drive me to the engravers. And we both did it because we really loved the Vacha, who was the chair who was stepping down. And we just had such a good time talking about Manjushri. And there was something about standing in the engravers, trying to decide which way the mantra should go, whether it should go that way or the other way. And so I held the sword above my head in the way Manjushri holds the sword. And there was something about that moment. And I was like, yeah, so it has to go like this way, because we hold the sword this way. And but kind of approximating the mudra, the gesture of the bodhisattva figure, I think does something.
Yeah.
And actually having a sword in my hand to do that with was amazing.
It's really powerful.
Yeah.
That's a lovely story. Yeah, it makes me think of my friend who was also practices this visualization practice. He used to have a sword on his desk, and when he really needed to focus, he used to pick the sword up and hold the sword to help him to focus, as a way of channeling the sort of channeling Manjushri. Because the sword sort of cuts through ignorance, it cuts through confusion. So he worked at a Buddhist retreat centre. So he wasn't, working on a finance trading firm. But a few of you are writing in questions, or Caroline said you were loving reading about Milarepa. Yes. Oh, Milarepa is such a rich figure, and actually slightly, in a way, different to Manjushri, because a real historical figure.
Benoit saying, on the previous day, one of the teachers mentioned taking notes after meditating or keeping a notebook ready nearby. Do you do this, and what sort of things do you note down? I haven't done it for some time. Sometimes my note keeping's really detailed and good. Sometimes I just sort of say a few things. When I'm really in a certain mood, I make myself a grid of the 5 different aspects of meditation, or 10 different aspects, depending on which text I'm studying at the moment, and grade myself from 0 to 10.
Wow.
So it depends.
That's very systematic.
It's very, very systematic. I have to make myself a grid. Varia energy? Not today. Which is all I give yourself. And what's good about the grid though is that you can sort of like see like that things change.
That sounds really cool. And slightly terrifying. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean I don't do it all the time. It's sort of like when I'm meditating more, when I'm on retreat.
When you're on retreat.
That the last time I did that grid thing I was in India. Not on a meditation retreat, I was just practicing yoga, and all I was doing was practicing meditation, practicing yoga, and eating. And studying. So it's kind of quite good conditions, you know?
It's a good segue actually into talking about retreats, because we can hear next door that they're having tea next door, and then it goes quiet when they're making their announcements. But we could say something about retreats, couldn't we? Because I was thinking as well when I was talking about, we're talking about samadhi and prajna, and in a way they fuse together. It's not that you just do one and the other. Samadhi will lead to prajna. And when you're on retreat, the mind will naturally become much more still and much more energized. So you have to do less of the sort of groundwork of just trying to get the mind to stabilize, because everything on the retreat is guiding the mind towards being stable and being calm. So it's much, much easier to access the sort of willingness, but also the capacity to pay attention to experience and be receptive to it. So when we're on retreat, there's like no logistics or planning, or you're not having to like think about what to do next or what you're doing this. It's so wonderful. Everything's taken care of for you, and you just, like Danita was saying, all you need to do is like meditate, do yoga, maybe if you want to do some body work, go for a walk and eat, and then just be thinking about the Dharma, thinking about experience, turning your mind towards experience, and also just really enjoying that, learning how to relish that. And learning how to like let life in a way, in a really beautiful way.
Yeah. And when you're meditating so much, meditation tends to build.
Yeah.
It's almost like our mind just gets much, much more subtle. And it's not as if like every single sit is amazing or anything like that, but there's less pressure on each sit to get concentrated.
Yeah.
There's more relaxation. And when those two things happen, naturally, a different kind of consciousness can come into being. It's very, very hard to explain if you've not been on retreat. So I just want to encourage everyone to just try it once, you know. See if retreats work for you. It seems to work for most people.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've got lots of retreats coming up, and you can have a look on our website, and Matt can post the link to the retreats. And our sort of main retreats that are coming up are the retreats which are over Christmas and New Year. So you can check those out, and those are such powerful retreats. There's something about like different times of the year and different times of the month are sort of more auspicious and powerful than other times, and that turning of the year is so... there's a potency already to that time of year. So going away at that time of year, I feel like it sort of supercharges your efforts. Yeah. And so many people come back from those retreats really having experienced change and actually making quite substantial and lasting changes in their lives and recommitting to deeper values. So have a look at those retreats. There's one if you're quite new, if you're in the first year or 2 years of practice, and there's one if you're more experienced. Yeah. Danita's going to be there, aren't you, as well?
Yeah, that's right. I'll be teaching yoga, but I won't be teaching anyone to stand on their chin. Don't worry.
Yeah. She'll go easy on you. Just head. No.
I'll just be teaching some yoga on the retreat as well. So if you come, you'll at least know one person. Those winter retreats are life-changing experiences. We're very, very lucky to be able to run them at these beautiful retreat centers. The one for beginners is going to be run at a place called Adhisthana, and Adhisthana is a retreat center that's just been going from strength to strength. Every year it looks more and more beautiful. Yeah. Every year as more people practice in the shrine room, just practice on the grounds of Adhisthana, you can just feel, like it's almost like you don't really need to practice, like the place practices for you.
Yeah, it's so beautiful there. The grounds just sort of do part of the work for you, don't they? Yeah. They're really, really beautiful. Yeah, it's quite magical, that retreat. Oh yeah, and and then the last thing to say is just to ask you to give to the Buddhist Centre. So it's really wonderful that we can offer these classes. We're so glad to be able to offer these on YouTube and to reach people in Utah or Bognor Regis. It's really, really wonderful. And the London Buddhist Centre is a big operation, and there's so many people involved. So many people give their time freely to the Buddhist Centre. Dharma Utah has another job. She works very, very hard, and she gives so much of her free time to the Buddhist Centre because she wants the project to flourish. And hopefully you'll want the Buddhist Centre to flourish as well. Hopefully you've gained something from tuning into our activities, from feeling part of the community, and we really want you to. And actually one of the ways to feel involved is to give to the Buddhist Centre. So you can follow the link and you can give to us, and whatever you give will be really, really well used. Okay, so people are coming back from the tea break now, so we're going to transition into the second half. So it's been nice to have tea with you, and see you tomorrow night, hopefully. Subtle exit. Yeah, good. Sorry.
Is that us, David? Is that everyone? Okay. Right, so yes, welcome back. My name's Sthiramanas, and yes, if you were in the room downstairs, then welcome in here as well. So yeah, we're right in the heart of our urban retreat, and we've already heard Naga talk about the Buddha Shakyamuni, and last night we heard Don Utah talking about Green Tara. So we're exploring these five different figures over 5 nights, 5 different aspects of enlightenment, if you like, 5 embodiments of enlightenment, as a means to try and get a bit more of a sense, a more full-blooded sense, if you like, of what that is that we're sort of pointing towards by sitting here in this room and coming to the Buddhist Centre. So yes, as Gauravati said, I'm going to be talking about Manjushri, who's this figure sitting here on the shrine. I'll sort of get to that, but I want to pick up on. I want to pick up from where Dharma Utah left off yesterday. So, yeah, do you have a seat? So I thought Daniel Tar's talk was great yesterday, and if you haven't seen it, I'd really recommend it. It's on YouTube. I'd really recommend watching it back. And I thought you were starting to get to you were starting to get at the essence of this question of wisdom and what it is that we mean when we talk about wisdom in Buddhism. And I'm going to that's really the focus, if you like, of tonight. Manjushri is the essence of wisdom, if you like. So we'll be trying to I'll be sort of treading that tightrope. Ultimately, which we're trying to talk about, I'll be trying to talk about something that ultimately cannot be spoken about. So I'll do my best and bear with me. But I wanted to pick up on a quote that Dani Uttara read from Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, who's one of the teachers of Bante, my teacher, Urgyen Sangharaskshita, who founded this movement and who died 3 years ago on Saturday coming up. So Dilgo Khyentse said, as Dani Uttara said last night, your real enemy is your belief in a self. If you simply let go of the thought of I, you would find it easy to be free and to free others too. Yeah, there was a bit more to it than that, and it was great. But I sort of thought I'd pick up there. So your real enemy is your belief in a self. If you simply let go of the thought of I, you would find it easy to be free and to free others too, which sounds nice and straightforward. And Bante said, in a slightly more concise form than that, I suppose, he said, true freedom consists in freedom from oneself. So yeah, if we're really wanting to be free, there's lots of different manifestations of freedom that we hear about, we talk about in political discourse, in adverts, true freedom is freedom from oneself. But getting into this territory, it's a sort of dangerous territory to get into, and it's easy to sort of fall off the side, if you like. When we're talking about being free from ourselves, it's very possible. I mean, firstly, it's very possible to have a negative sense of oneself. I'm sure all of us have at least some of the time some sense of ourselves that we don't like, and it's very possible to to slightly long for that, as if something's going to be destroyed, and we'll be rid of something of ourselves, and we could get into a slightly incorrect, if not unhealthy relationship to this idea of getting beyond a self. Just going to see what time I started here. So what we're not talking about here is an annihilation in a sense. So it can be one way that I think when I first heard about this, I was imagining a kind of, I'd go beyond the self, get rid of this sense of this thought of I that Dilgo Khyentse is talking about. I'd go beyond that, and there'd just be like nothing there. There'd just be nothing there. It would be a sort of a state of blank that happens when I'm sort of cut out of the picture. And so it's not that we're talking about. If you like, the sort of empirical self, the self of our experience, so our body, our senses, our thoughts, our feelings, all of those things, they're not. It's not that they're going to be blanked out. They're not going anywhere. It's the fact that, if you like, it would be as if it would just sit in a much bigger context. It would be as if freedom from that would be as if there were a much vaster consciousness with which this overlapped. That we were no longer prioritizing this bit that we relate to as ourselves. It's a bit like if you have a dream. So if you wake up and you've had a dream, I've had a few quite vivid dreams on this retreat. I've sort of been out of the habit of dreaming, if you like, or remembering them at least. But I had a few quite vivid dreams, and particularly in the morning or in meditation, they can come back very fully. And they're a complete world, a dream, especially if you've ever had a sort of touch of a lucid dream. The shocking thing is just that everything is completely like sense experience. It's a complete world in itself. So when you wake up and you remember the dream, the experience is still there. The experience of the dream is still there. The dream happened, but we're relating to the dream in the context of our waking consciousness. Yeah? So there's the dream, and there's more than the dream. The dream exists as a part of something much bigger than itself. The consciousness of the dream exists as a part of a consciousness much bigger than that. So if you like, what we're talking about here, the wisdom of the Buddhas, would, in a manner of speaking, in a way, this can only be a manner of speaking, this can only be metaphor. In a manner of speaking, it's like another waking up. The Buddha is the one who is awake, so it's a good metaphor in that. It's like we wake up again, and we'd be in relation to a consciousness that's much bigger than the one we currently experience. So rather than the self being eliminated, it's more like the self, rather than being a fixed thing that we carry around here and there, the self is a sort of habit of limitation. It's like a habit of limiting our consciousness. And the thing that would be eliminated, if you like, was the limitation itself. The space that was previously limited, the space that was previously bounded, the kind of experience that was previously bounded would still be there, but it would no longer be limited. Yeah. So I'll come on to Manjushri, but I think this relates to why it is that we're looking at these figures, why it is that we're not just meditating, but why it is that we're also encountering myth and trying to encounter the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas as living entities that we can come into a sort of imaginative relationship with. Because in this movement I'm just describing, where we remove this limitation, what it would be like is, rather than a blanking out, it would be like more consciousness. Yeah? It would be like experiencing more consciousness, coming into contact with more consciousness. And that isn't abstract. That's not ideas. It's not things that we can, there's lots of very complex books about Buddhism. And some of them are very good and worth working away at, and some of them less so. And it can get this idea that particularly Buddhist wisdom is something very, very, very heady, and based on ideas and concepts and so on. And in a way, if we're trying to encounter Buddhist wisdom, we're trying to encounter a mind. Any encounter with the Dharma is like a meeting of minds, yeah. So it's like we're meeting a mind. That's sort of what we're trying to do in meeting these figures in our imaginations. We're trying to meet the mind of the Dharma, if you like. And that's true throughout our practice. That's not true just at the sort of pinnacle, if you like. That's not just true in trying to meet the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. That's happening when we come to the Buddha Center. We're meeting other people who are practicing. We're meeting teachers. When I first came along here, I'm going to take a sip of my water, otherwise I'm going to do the thing where I hold it for about 5 minutes without I did that with a biscuit yesterday. It got pretty embarrassing after a while because I sort of chewed it a little bit and I was sort of waving it around. Anyway, when I first came here, my teacher, Maitreya Bandhu, who ordained me, was sitting here and was talking. He was just speaking my language, basically. He was talking in the language of the arts and talking about metaphor, and something about it just really chimed with me. But mainly it was something about him. I had this really strong sense that I just needed to have coffee with him. I just really needed to talk to this man. And I didn't quite know what it was about. I thought it was about, I needed to talk to him about the arts somehow. I had something I needed to work out. And I probably did as well, because I used to work in theatre, so it was there was something about that was relevant. But mainly I just wanted to meet him. I wanted to communicate with him. So Sangharaskshita has this phrase that the Dharma is caught, not taught. Yeah. So effectively, it's a bit of an unfortunate phrase at the moment, isn't it? The Dharma is something that is that we pick up from people because it's something of this nature of consciousness relating to consciousness. We're relating to something that's live, not abstract concepts. We're relating to a living force, and we can do that in our relationships with people. So, as Sthiramanas was saying in the tea break, in order to practice the Dharma, we really, really do need to be in contact with other people. We really need Sangha. We really need a community of people who are trying to do the same thing. And we also need to be open to them as well. We need to be willing to be in a relationship to people that we feel we can learn something from. Maybe we don't. Maybe not people who are perfect. Maybe people who, in other ways. Maybe maybe they could learn things from us in other ways. But mainly, the reason we're doing here, the reason we're here, in wanting to develop, in wanting to experience a more expansive consciousness and live from that. We need to seek out people and genuinely be open to them. What they'll have to teach us is beyond us currently. What they have to teach us is something that we're currently blind to. So we do really need to be willing to open up to that, which can be challenging as well, because we don't always like what we hear. So when I just one example. I feel like we've been talking about these figures individually, but I feel that it's poignant talking about them in relation to this Saturday and the anniversary of Bhante Sangharakshita's death. It was an unusual. In a way, we don't quite know why he picked these 5 mantras. He just asked for these 5 mantras to be chanted after he died. There might be a reason, I don't know, Sthiramanas might know, but I'm not aware of any particular rationale that he gave. I might just tell a quick story of when I met Bhante as well. I feel very lucky to have met him before he died. I met him a few times, but the one that really struck me was the first one, and I think it's because I went in and I was really receptive. Like I sort of thought there's a very good chance this is he was an old man at the time, he was in his 90s. I thought there's a very good chance that this is the only time I'll meet him. And I'd heard a lot of his, I'd read his books and I'd heard his lectures, and I knew friends of his. I know David Mitra very well, who was friends with Bhante for a long time, and I sort of heard stories, and I sort of felt like I knew the man, and felt very, very grateful to him for this. So I was just really, really open to him. I was really up for the meeting, if you like. I was quite nervous. And I sat down and I had an idea that I was, again, working in theatre at the time, thought it'd be really good to talk about theatre, hoped he'd be really interested. He didn't really want to talk about theatre, he wanted to talk about William Blake, who I hadn't read, but really did want to talk about William Blake. And in a way it was quite unremarkable. What we talked about was quite unremarkable. But I came out and I spoke to one of someone who lived at this retreat centre, which is where he lived at the time and where he's buried now, which is where this winter retreat's taking place that Sthiramanas was talking about. I spoke to someone who was living there and they said, how was the meeting? And the first thing that came into my head is I felt like he'd taught me something about metta. I felt very clearly that I'd learned something about metta and how to, I don't know, sort of like the nature of love, the nature of a kind of open relation to others. I felt like I'd learnt that. I felt like he'd taught me that, but we didn't talk about it at all. And I can't really say what that was, but I definitely feel that is the case, and I do actually feel it was a bit of a turning point in my sort of meditation life. I couldn't quite tell you why that was, and I felt like that was a sense of like, I felt like I was open enough to meet a mind that was bigger than mine, and that communicated something to me, and I feel very grateful to that. And in a way, Bhante, in giving us in passing on these mantras, the mantras of these figures and many other figures into the life of our order and through the order into the movement, he's introducing us, if you like, to these other minds. So we're being introduced across this week to five minds. Is one way of thinking about it. Another way might be that there are 5 gateways into the same enlightened experience. The gateways themselves look quite different from one another, but they're all pulling in the same direction. So tonight we're looking at this figure of Manjushri. And in doing so, we're asking the question of what does wisdom look like? So Manjushri is wisdom personified. He is he's wisdom personified. So I'll try and tell you what he looks like, but it'll sort of be up to you in a certain sense as well. So you'd find him in the midst of a clear blue sky with no ground in any direction. Yeah, so just completely clear blue sky stretching in all directions. And in that sky would be a lotus, a blue lotus, the same colour as the sky. So sort of exquisitely the same colour as the sky that you could almost wonder if it was if you were seeing through it into the sky on the other side. And atop this lotus sits Manjushri, whose name means the gently radiant one, or the gently auspicious one. And he's in the form of a 16-year-old prince. 16 was in ancient India was seen as the pinnacle of beauty in a person's life. So he's beautiful, he's youthful. Interesting to think of a figure representing wisdom who's youthful. Normally we think of wisdom as associated with age, but he's 16 years old and beautiful. And he's dressed as a prince, yeah. So he's dressed in fine silks and jewels and adornments of gold and jewels. He wears he has long sort of jet oil black hair, which is tied up in a top knot, very trendy, and with a tiara of these beautiful jewels of the 5 Buddhas. And he holds in his right hand a flaming sword, yeah, which is quite striking. And you might not have expected to meet a Buddha with a sword, but there you go. So he holds it very, very lightly, very gently between middle two fingers and his thumb, in what's called the demon subduing Mudra. So very, very lightly. He's not sort of hefting it around. He's just very gently poised. And the sword itself is flame. So flames lick down the length of this sword. And in his other hand, he holds the book of wisdom, the book of the perfect wisdom. Yeah. So if wisdom were a book, that's what he's holding in his left hand, and he holds it here. He holds a lotus with the book on the top of the lotus, but the way I'm familiar with imagining him certainly is just holding the book to his heart, holding it right against his heart. And perhaps the most striking thing about him is his colour. He's made of light. All these figures are made of light. Yeah. So we're really not in the ordinary world. We're not relating to this with our everyday senses. We meet these figures in the imagination. So he's made of light, and he's a colour that you can't quite pin down as well. Sometimes the colour is described as being like sunlight through honey. Sometimes it's described as being like the colour of a lion's eye. I quite like to think. Sometimes I sit here in the morning and meditate with our community, people who live here at the centre, and the candlelight on gold as well. There's something of that. The sort of the warm light of the candle reflecting against gold, and or also possibly sort of the colour of molten iron. So you see sort of iron in a furnace, and it's this deep, radiant golden orange. But perhaps most evocatively, you could think of it as the colour of the sun as it dawns. So this is the symbols of the figure is rich with symbol. And Donnie talked yesterday about symbols, these symbols being like a map, if you like, to this particular to this mind, a map to what's something that's trying to be communicated. The symbols of the book and the sword are, of course, human symbols, aren't they? They're things that we've imbued with meaning over many, many years and through stories and so on. Something even more primal than that is the sun rising. That moment, especially before you had electric light, that moment where the sun would rise and you would go from a pitch darkness into daytime. And there's something about that symbol, isn't there, of just like of darkness being dispelled. We talk about enlightenment, so that's a metaphor, isn't it? It's a metaphor of light coming into the picture. It's a metaphor of darkness, the darkness of suffering, the darkness of ignorance, being cleared away by the rising sun of wisdom. And I feel like I got this sort of clearest sense of this I did a solitary retreat in Spain a couple of years ago. I was in a hut in the mountains in Catalonia for a month, and there was beautifully no electricity. Actually, there was an electric light, but it was really pathetic, so I didn't really use it. So no electricity, and so there was no civilization around. It was really, really remote, and so dark was dark. And it was quite scary. I realised it was quite a basic hut, and I realised to my horror on the first night that there wasn't actually a lock on the door. I've been brought up on solitary huts that are sort of a bit like have a fridge and like running water and a lock on the door, and it was very dark and there wasn't a lock on the door. And there's something quite scary about that. I tried one night to go outside and meditate, thinking that'll be good. I'll face it, and I couldn't do it. It was really dark, and there was no one around. And so and I would get up before day broke, and the breaking of day was a thing. It really was there was a relief associated with that. And right at the end of this. Right at the end of this solitary, I'd been sort of dreaming. I knew I would come back and I'd go back to work, but before that, I'd booked in a day, a night where I'd stay over in Tarragona on the coast, where I was going to ease myself back into the world, and I'd be on the beach, and as it happened, it was awful. I got cheesy pasta, I got Coke, I got like. Ice cream and brownie. I felt really ill. I went around. I didn't speak a word of Spanish, and I went around trying to get top up the internet on my phone, and really failing. It was really awful. But I sort of got to bed and sort of felt like, I sort of wasted this. But it was a beautiful place, and it was on the sea front, and I'd clocked the night before where. The sun would rise, and it was over the ocean, and I thought, okay, I've sort of wasted this first day back. This has been actually kind of awful, but what I'll do is I just had this sense that I really wanted to go and see dawn break over the ocean. So I got up before dawn and walked through the town, and it was completely quiet, and swam out and sort of hid my sort of stuff on the beach under a stone, and swam out into the sea for the sun to rise. And there was a bit of cloud, so it was sort of rising behind this cloud for a while, and I swam out. And I wanted to do it properly, so I swam out a bit deeper than I would normally feel comfortable. Like, definitely couldn't feel the floor underneath me. And there was that fear, the same thing that would stop me from meditating outside in the night, of just this dark space underneath in the ocean, and the sort of darkness and this deserted beach town sort of behind me. And then there was this moment where the clouds just parted, and I was in the middle of just an expanse of water, and the sun was low enough that you could still look at it. It was this this beaming orange that over the water was just like, it was like fire on water. And there's just the sort of shock of it, if you like, was so striking. The sort of transition from darkness into light was so striking. I was really moved by it. And still quite scared by by not being able to see what was underneath me in the water. So I was there. I was sort of hit by that for about a minute and then sort of swam back in. But that's really stayed with me, and I think there's something in that experience that's close to what I'm trying to sort of get at, or what's trying to, or that might get at why this radiance of Manjushri is this colour. So we could ask sort of spiritually speaking, what is the darkness that we're talking about? What is it that's keeping out the light? What is it that's keeping us from being enlightened? And the tradition talks about two veils, yeah? So it's like there's two veils that are drawn across our vision that keep us from seeing. And they are the veil is translated as varana. So they're the klesha varana and there's the nyaya varana. So klesha, the kleshas could be described as sort of poisons, if you like. So they're, to put it in a way, it's the tendency to just sort of try and make things how we like them. That might be, I really want to. It might be we often talk about like chocolate, like the mundane thing of like, I like some chocolate, so I go and get myself some chocolate, and then I feel sick later. Or that I don't like that person, so I sort of avoid them and I sit over here. But we can do that in all sorts of subtle ways. I noticed myself at the dinner table tonight, I gave a spoiler on a play that some people still haven't seen. A friend of mine's directed. I gave a spoiler, and I realised afterwards, just to prove that I knew the play. And I was like, why did I do that? Because that's like that painful experience of just trying to sort of like place things in a way that sort of solidifies something about me, that gets me the things that I like, that puts me in a position in relation to others that I'd like to be. And in a way, we're just sort of manipulating our experience and the people who happen to show up in the middle of our experience so as to suit us. And it's inherently a painful way to live, especially the more extreme degrees of that. If we were to kill a person, that would be an extreme version of us manipulating the world, completely forgetting about all this other consciousness that is there, these other minds, a living world. We'd be cutting ourselves off from it in order to suit ourselves. So the first veil that we need to break through is this veil of klesha, of manipulating experience to suit us. But that is underpinned by the nyaya varana. That is underpinned by false assumptions about how things are. Underneath those actions will be ideas about why that's necessary. So if I say I killed someone, I've probably got an idea about why that is an appropriate thing to do. Well, perhaps that's in war. Perhaps I've just decided that they're an evil person or whatever. There'd be an idea underneath that would make it possible to act in that way. But these false ideas can go very, very deep because they are there's a sort of falsity that's trapped, if you like, in the basic perceptual situation that we find ourselves in the basic in the way that we experience, full stop. It's like there's a sort of sort of catch in it that is creating this in the first place. To have an experience, then it's sort of wrapped up in this idea that there is a me having an experience and there's a thing that I'm experiencing. So we're already dividing up. Experience. We're taking this potential more expansive consciousness that I talked about at the start, and we're sort of chunking it up. So we can do that in all sorts of different levels in terms of these groups of people that I know and like, these groups of people that I don't know and like, but also right down to the level of seeing there being an experiencer, a me that needs to be protected and sort of boosted in whatever way, and a world that is out there and is separate. And there's an assumption within that because I'm here, I'm a thing, and there are things out there, that those things are all, they're just like that, that they won't change. It's like that's the only way that we can grasp reality to the point where we feel like we can understand it and feel secure, is that there are things, they don't change, that's a thing out there and I'm a thing in here. In order to talk, in order to communicate, in order to function in the world, we need to have something of this. This is an evil. This is a sort of. It's like develop. We can sort of see it develop as a part of evolution, if you like. It's natural. We need, like the organism, if you like, needs to survive. So it's a helpful mechanism in some sense for that. It means that you can identify things out there that are food, and you can and you can protect the experiencer in here. It helps survive and thrive and procreate, etc. So it's bred in, if you like. It goes very, very deep. But in order to undermine, in order to break through that second veil, we need to undermine that. We need to look at it closely enough. And if we look closely enough, we'll see that it cannot be true. So Gauravati was getting us to reflect on impermanence. This idea that I'm a fixed thing in here. If I really look at my experience, where's that? Where is it? So there's ways that we can. There are ways that we can, with a positive, still mind, we can approach that and start to cut through that second veil. And this is perhaps what Manjushri's sword is getting at. So he wields a sword. He's not turning it on people. He's turning it on these things that get in the way. It's violent in a way. There's room. It's a sort of spiritual violence, if you like. The violence is energy put in to overcome something, to break through something, and applied skillfully against that which stands in the way, against that which causes suffering ultimately, and is the root of all suffering, our own and other people's. Against that's a skillful thing. It's a skillful application of force to cut through. So we need to find a way to cut through these two veils. We need to find ways of cutting through our habitual tendencies to manipulate the world in a way that suits us. And we have to do that in a number of ways. Firstly, we just need to notice how we do that and what our particular habits are. I mentioned needing to practice the Dharma in relationship to other people. Well, we're really going to need them. Where we're doing this will mostly be somewhere out there in the dark, and we need other people's perception of us is generally more accurate, especially if we have a sense that they have some wisdom themselves, and especially if we have a sense that they have our interests at heart. Can get a bit distorted if somebody's sort of out to get you or something, but we can often assume that that's the case when they criticise us. It may not be the case. It might be that they're really trying to help us see what's limiting us, and so we need to spot the ways in which we're manipulating our experience, the unskillful actions that we're taking that are keeping us separate from people, and allow Manjushri's sword to cut it off. And then we need to approach at a much deeper level. In a way, we can do. There's much that we can do to. In a way, we're probably a bit more familiar working on this level of klesha and trying to improve ourselves, trying to make the world a better place, trying to decrease the suffering that we see that comes from selfishness, that comes from just misunderstandings between people, etc. There are all sorts of solutions that we can sort of put in place. There are scientific solutions, there are technological solutions, there psychological solutions, and so on. And these are all, they're all good things. They're all helpful, but none of them are enough to get to the root of the problem. None of them are enough to cut through not only the klesha varana, but the nyaya varana, which is the source of all of it. As long as we're still caught in this deluded framework through which all of our experience issues, so long as we're relating to the world from that, the things will just keep popping up. It'll be like whack-a-mole. We'll sort one thing out, and something else will pop up over here. We'll have a political solution for one thing over there. But as long as people are still, as long as we're still deluded, us as individuals, then no matter what our best efforts are, the suffering will continue. And this darkness, you could see it as sort of like a dark cloud, if you like. And Manjushri's effort is just to dispel it. It needs to be dispelled. We sort of know this on a kind of primal, mythic level, that the darkness just does need to be dispelled by the light. It's in every hero story. Good needs to overcome evil. We need to dispel suffering, no matter whether it's my suffering or that person's suffering or that person over there who I don't particularly like suffering. Suffering is just suffering, and Manjushri would see that completely equally and do everything in his power to influence, to slice through those things, those veils that are causing it in the first place. So hopefully that gets at something of what he's doing with this sword. Hopefully that gets at something of what this darkness is that needs to be dispelled. But that sort of leaves the question of what, what's the light? What is this light that's coming in to the picture and dispelling it? I feel like it's also a kind of a question like sort of the same question as what's this book that he's holding to his heart? He's got the sword to cut through ignorance, but he's got the book, the truth, if you like, held close to his heart as a precious object. And there's something about sort of books. This is an old practice. This image goes back right into Buddhist India, possibly 2,000 years ago. It's a very, very ancient symbol, if you like. Manjushri has been alive in the minds of people since for thousands of years. The book, there is something sort of very, very basic about that. Kindles just aren't quite the same. I've got a Kindle, and there is something that's just not quite the same as having a physical book. It's a sort of gateway, isn't it, a book? It's a physical object that is a stack of paper stuck together with a bunch of squiggly lines in it. And yet it's a gateway into something that's currently unknown. It's a gateway into a whole world. A novel is like it's an imaginative universe that opens up within that. I spent quite a lot of the end of last year reading A Suitable Boy by Vikram Seth, which is huge. It's like a brick. There's something about just this object that you're sort of carrying around, and you put it in your bag, and you pick it up, and you take it there, and you keep reading it. And when I'd finished it, it was great. When I'd finished it, it was like I just sort of didn't want to let go of it. I didn't want to put it down. It was the only tangible physical thing that I had that was left of this world that I'd been in, if you like. And so there's something sort of solid and reassuring about it. And this gesture of holding it to the heart, just means something. So to hold the truth to one's heart, to have something that is solid, there is amongst all this change that we were looking at, amongst the fact that everything that we currently put our reliance upon will change, will fade. Everything that is dear to us will pass away. Everything that we try and hitch a faith on is a pie in the sky, to quote the Shins. For some reason, I wasn't planning to quote the Shins. And yet, we long for something that can meet that. We know on some level that there is something that can meet our longing. Some ground base that can kind of catch us as we're falling, if you like. Yeah, I feel like that's sort of... We talk sometimes about the Dharma being like diamond, like the hardest thing in existence. I feel like that's something of that's sort of capsulated in this book, Held to the Heart. But if we were to open the book, what would it say? What would it actually have to say to us? And I'd love to tell you. There's such an urge, isn't there? Especially when we feel like there's something of meaning to be discovered. There's such an urge to just have it in writing. You should please get to the point. I can have that sometimes when we're sort of studying the Dharma, being like, okay, so what is it? That? It's not quite that. Is it that? No, it's sort of. Not quite like that. This urge, however, to apprehend, to understand, is a form of grasping in itself. Any concept is a solidification. Any concept is a splitting out splitting up of reality into bite-sized chunks. And we cannot frame reality in concepts. It will always elude them. And even the word apprehension, the Latin of that is in to grasp. It's a grasping. The urge to understand is to grasp something. So the urge to have something set there in writing that we can take away and say that's what the Buddha's getting at, full stop, will always elude us. So in a way, and what Manjushri is really communicating is a way to wisdom that goes through words, beyond words. Yeah, there's this phrase from Ashvaghosha who says that we use words to get beyond words, to get to the pure wordless essence. Another name for Manjushri is Manjughosha, which can be translated as the gentle-voiced one. So he has a gentle voice. What he does, what he exists for, is to communicate the truth to us. And it's gentle, and it's subtle, and it's soft, and it penetrates. And perhaps what would happen, we can only open the book in our imagination. Perhaps what might happen were we to open the book, rather than words, rather than an answer, rather than something we can apprehend, we might just get the light of the sun, the light overcoming darkness, and we might just hear the voice of Manjughosha singing the wordless song of the truth. So we'll end just by evoking him. So I'll turn the lights down and I'll lead the mantra. And we could come up and make offerings. The only thing I'd say is that if you want to make an offering, you're very, very welcome to, and I'd really encourage it. But do all kind of come up at once. Don't just wait for one person to come and then sit down. If you would like to make an offering to the shrine, then do just come up together in four at a time or something like that. And then we'll let the mantra die down, and then then that'll be the end of our evening. So just taking a moment just to settle down. Marapachanadhi, Om 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 Marapachanadhi,
Arapachanadi. Om 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 Arapachanadi. Om
Okay, so that's us for tonight. So yeah, do keep joining in with the urban retreat. We'll have morning at 7 tomorrow, lunchtime class at 1, and another evening tomorrow, where we'll hear from Dana Uttar on Amitabha. So you could leave your mats and cushions where they are.
Thank you. Thank you very much.